What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the Arcade1up modifications. I had some questions, some comments over the last couple of days. I'm going to address some of those on here, plus a little bit tutorials here on some of the setups, like your power on off switches, your volume switch. So let's get started here. First, I did a video on controls, the different joysticks, whether you want to keep them as stock or as or using the USB encoder with the RetroPie, how to change some of them, how to convert to make them work. I didn't though go over this. If your Arcade1up machine came with a 5-pin connector, now on the stock, obviously it goes right to it. But let's say you wanted to use one of these on your RetroPie image on the USB encoder. Now, normally you would think where it just goes directly here to the 5-pin, which it goes fits right in. But that's not the case on here. For the main reason here, the way Arcade1up did this, the wiring, I don't know why, but as you can see, the yellow one's on top here, but then when it comes down here, it goes to the bottom. So they kind of like flipped it on here. So when you do plug this in, it doesn't read it. You're not able to set up the controls. It doesn't work. And it's a quick, easy fix. Basically, you just got to use this wire, which may have came with your USB encoder, depending on the package or kit that you got. These come with it. If not, I'll leave a link in the description. Very cheap. I think I paid like $5 for like 5 of these on here, maybe less. And if you just take this out on here, that came with the Arcade1up, and then just put in this wire, it will work. So now you're able to use your stock controllers, joysticks with the that have the 5-pin connector on your RetroPie. So that's all that's to that. The other thing I want to mention about the Raspberry Pis, most of you guys get like the 3 or 3B plus. Now there's also Raspberry Pi 4s, but it's not a stable build yet, so I'm just waiting for that. I don't really like using the beta versions, but not many people comment about this one. It's the Raspberry Pi A plus. It's a much smaller than the B plus, but as far as hardware goes, as far as capabilities go, this is just as good as the B plus as far as specifications here on how well it runs the games and everything. It's the same thing as the B plus. The main differences on here, which I'm going to explain. Well, first, like I mentioned, the size of it, but it doesn't have the Ethernet wire, which for me is no big deal because I don't even use that. I do everything wireless anyway. So it has the Wi-Fi, but it doesn't have the Ethernet, and it only has one USB, where the B plus has the 4, or the B, or even the Raspberry 2 has the 4. This only has 1. So that's the main difference. But let's say you're doing a mod for like the Space Invader, so it only has the one stick here. So you're only using one, or the Galaga or Pac-Man even on there. You're able to use it. So if you're doing mods on those, you could use just the one USB. You can't do it for like Centipede Asteroids because you got to get the trackball or the spinner, and that requires, with the buttons, it's 2 separate USBs. You could actually even do it for the Street Fighter, like Street Fighter Final Fight. This you can't because it's 3, but Street Fighter and Final Fight can still be done by using a two-player USB encoder instead of just one. If you use that, then you could even use the A plus for for your Street Fighter or Final Fight. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because, I mean, if you go on Adafruit website, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but that's where I pretty much get all my pies. I haven't had any issues with them there, you know, as opposed to like Amazon or eBay. On there, all of them are fine, man, and they got these for $25, you know, which is a great price. Like I said, it does everything. It has its pins here, everything else that you will see on a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. Just like I said, without only one USB. But you could use that, like I said, if you want to use it for Street Fighter Final Fight, you just get a 2-player. And I'm going to show you guys that, because this thing kind of gets a bad rep. There's always like bad reviews on this, but it's not a bad device. Same thing as this. I'm going to explain some of the differences and why people give it a bad review. Now, it's only one USB, so when you connect this over into the Raspberry Pi on there, and you load it up, it's only going to detect one gamepad, you know, out of the box. So you basically have to, you know, you could set this up, and then you go into RetroArch and you configure player number 2, you know. And that goes with a lot of devices. It's not just this. You could get like a $300 extension arcade, you know, control deck, and it'll do the same thing. But the main problem on here that people are having is basically with the controls, is the joystick area, because it only recognizes like the one. So when you hook up the player 1 to the controls, it also moves player 2. The buttons are fine. All the buttons are fine. It's just the joystick, you know. If this had one more button on here, or if you do, let's say, like the Rampage or like the Final Fight only has the 2 buttons, then you could actually connect the directions here with the buttons, and you'll be fine if you do it for both of them. And like I said, what you would do is just config on the main menu player 1, and then set up player 2 through the RetroArch menu on there. But Street Fighter unfortunately has one more button. This has 10 on here. So you'll be a button less, you know, so that's the only thing. If there's a board that has more of these buttons, then we could do that. But I'm going to show you how to use this regardless. Basically, it's just one command line that we need to put on our boot CMD line on there. And then it'll make the RetroPie read this as a 2 gamepad. And then we basically, after that, we just set it up normally, like we would do all our other joysticks. So I'm going to boot up the RetroPie. I have a clean image of RetroPie on there, and we're going to set this up, show you guys how to do it. Alright, so I got everything hooked up here to the one board here. You know, here's your controls, you know, up, directional, and here's the buttons, your start button, and then red, white, and blue wires, you know, for player 1 and player 2. So we got it all hooked up here. All the buttons, joysticks are connected. Let's boot up the Pi on here. I'll show you guys how to configure this. Alright, so we got the RetroPie here booted up. And when you're prompted with the configuration input, as you can see right now, it's only detected one gamepad. You know, and that's because it only has the one USB on there. And we'll show you guys this is how we change it. So before we put any input any type of buttons on here, we're going to fix that to make this read 2 gamepads, and then at that point you would just set up like you do normally. So what we do, we're going to escape out of that. You're going to hit your F4 key, so to be brought up to the command line, or if you're on your computer, you know, through terminal or whatever, putty. Same way, go in here, and then first we want to get the vendor ID and the product ID of your USB, because yours might be different, or you might have bought it from a different producer or has a different product ID. So it's very important that you input the one that you're using. So the way we get our USB list, you press LS USB. All right. So just like that, LS USB, and we're going to hit enter, and this is going to list all our USB devices. Now you may have your keyboard plugged in like I do, other USB drives. The one that you're looking for here is this one, Personal Communication Systems. And as you can see on mine, it has the vendor ID is 0810, and then my product ID is E001. Like I said, yours might be different. Just make sure you write those down because it's important. We're going to need that. So your vendor ID and your product ID on here. So we got both of those, and we're going to need to just put in a command on here. Alright, so once you got your vendor product ID, we got to go into our command line, which basically is sudo space nano space /boot /cmd line.txt. You guys might know this one before. We've used this one before for like our removing the boot text and the logo, same area. So sudo space nano space /boot /cmd line.txt. Hit enter. That'll bring us here. We got to go all the way to the right on here, to the end of this. So you can scroll with your direction pad, or just hit down and then left, and that'll get you all the way to the end here. We're gonna hit space, and we gotta input this. It's gonna be a USB HID dot QUIRKS. Okay, then the equal sign 0x, and then we got to put in our vendor ID. Mine was 0810. Like I said, yours is going to be different, or might be the same. Then you're going to put the colon, and then again 0x, and then I'm going to put the other ID, which was E001, another colon, then 0x040. So this is how it should look like. So it's USB HID dot QUIRKS equals 0x your vendor ID, 2 dots, 0x, then your product ID, again the colon, the 2 dots, 0x040. Once you have that, we got to save this. So it's Ctrl and X, hit Y for yes, and enter. And that's in. And I always like to reboot, you know, on here. So let's just reboot the system on here. And then once again, we're going to go into our configuration input. And it should now, if you did it correctly, you put your ID correctly, the way you see if it's working properly, it should list 2 gamepads now, and then it's pretty much simple. It's simple at this point because then you just input your control just normally like you would do when you use like the 2 USB encoders. All right, so we're booted back up. Let me hit start. Go down to configuration input on here. Yes. And now, as you can see, it lists 2 gamepads detected. So we're able to input the controls on here. And so let me do that now. Up, down, left, right. Start for player 1. Now I don't have a select button on here, so we're gonna skip that. So basically, pick a button that you already picked, like the start. I'm going to hold start. It's going to skip. If you have a select button, you hit it now. Or if you have like a coin door, you put the coin in there to initiate the select. I don't, so I'm going to skip the select. And I'm going to input my next 3 here, A, B, X, Y, L, R. And then I don't have any other buttons, so the rest we're going to skip. Just hold the button down. It's going to say not defined. So, if you're doing other machines that have only 2 buttons or 3, then you're going to be skipping a lot more buttons. But here, all these analogs and everything will skip. And then when we get down to the hotkey here, I'm using my start as my hotkey. If you want to use if you have a select button, you want to use your select, you could do that. But in this build, we don't add any additional buttons, so we're going to make the hotkey as the start button, which is button 0. Click OK. So Gamepad 1 is done, and then we're going to do the same thing here for Gamepad 2. Hold the button, and then up, down, left, right, start, skip that one, A, B, X, Y, L, R, and then skip the rest. Alright, so we have all these on, all the buttons will be set up, and then we just got to go into RetroArch. I'm going to show you the RetroArch, because a lot of guys also ask me about like the controller, how do you set up the controls and stuff, make the you know, the 2 buttons as your exit, not having to use the coin button or select button. This is how it's done. So everything's set up on here for both controls. We go over here to RetroPie, right? And we're going to scroll down to RetroArch. Because we still got to input our coin button on here. And this is the way we do it. We go to settings, then input, and then user 1 right here. You know, it's got the twin USB gamepad detector, which is good. And then right now select had nothing. I had actually spacebar for my keyboard, which I set earlier. So we're gonna hit A, and then we're gonna select this one, player 1. So now, as you can see, button 0, which is my player 1, because it's also my start, is the same thing, you know. And then just hit right here, save, auto config, file saved successfully, and we do the same thing for player 2. Player 2, scroll down, there's nothing here for select, so we're gonna pick the start button as well. So both of them have the that. Again, we'll save the file, auto save, and the last thing is here you want to set up your hotkeys. Okay, now the ones that have the auto, okay, are with the joystick. You know, the other ones are just keyboard. You could make them buttons if you wanted to. You just, you know, you could change it, add it in there. But the ones with the auto, we have to. And now, so whatever you want, the buttons, mainly, you know, the quit and your hotkey is what you want to be exit. So I use here player 1 and the jab button, these two. So for the quit, we're going to make that the jab button. Now, if you want it user-friendly, like I have it where nobody's able to do any other function, like access the menu, save state, and all that you can only do it through the keyboard, then basically all the ones that have auto, like I have button 1 on it, we're going to have to change it to that same button. So this will be the same, that will be the same, this one, reset game. Hotkey is our regular hotkey, so we'll leave that, and then the menu on here. So all of them are button 1. When we hit the hotkey feature, it's not going to do any of the other ones because it's going to quit out RetroArch on there. So that's how you get that. So it's, you know, it's not able to access. But like I said, if you want to have the other functions, you could set it up, you know, how you want to get the other ones across. Like I said, I keep it on keyboard only and leave the joystick user-friendly. That's how you do that. Now, the reason why we can't do player 1 and player 2 like we do on Space Invaders Old One, which kind of sucks because I would want to do that just to make every cabinet the same, is because this is on a separate gamepad from this one. You know, or if you're using 2 different USB encoders, you can't use hotkey on player 1 with a button on player 2. The only way we would be able to do that is, let's say on like a Rampage machine or like a Final Fight, or if this had like one less button, where we would put the joysticks on the buttons as opposed to the you know, the regular axis controls, and then all these would be only configured on one joystick. Like in the beginning, we wouldn't put that command line that we did, but like I said, it has one too many buttons where we can't do that. Otherwise, we would be able to do both of these buttons. Now, somebody did also ask me about, can we do like on the like the stock has, where you just hold the button and it exits out. There is. I'm kind of looking into it. I'm not too familiar with the device on that. It's the let me exit out here. I'm gonna show you guys where it is. So after you set the controls, let me just, I like to go here, set this on. Anytime you exit, it'll save, and then go to configuration, save current configuration. Okay, it's saved. Now we could exit out. Everything's set. So let me first test it out. We're gonna load up Street Fighter, Final Burn Alpha emulator. Alright, so it's loaded up on here. We're gonna put our coins, player 1 coin, player 2 coin. We got our 2 credits, 1 start, 2 start, you know. Our controls are working, player 1, player 2. Got all our coins. You want to throw in more coins and start, like I said, they're functioning for that. And everything should be working fine. Now we got controls for both. And then you want to exit the emulator, whatever you set at your exit. Like if I press hotkey and any of these other buttons, nothing's gonna work. So if I press these, boom. That's the only thing. So that's how you set that up. Going back to the other thing, if you go to RetroPie setup, okay, under manage packages, right here, manage driver package. Scroll all the way down. The one above here. Right now we're using Xpad. But supposedly this one here, Xbox DRV, if anyone's familiar with that, because supposedly you could have that where you could set the milliseconds on here by press, where you need a hard press for it to activate like the hotkey or the escape. So you could set player 1 as an escape button, escape for all emulators, but for it to only be activated, you would have to hold it down and then it will exit out, otherwise it wouldn't work. So if you hit the player 1, you still get your coin start, and then if you hold it, so that would be with the Xbox DRV. Like I said, I'm asking around to see, supposedly there is. I'll leave a link in the description, or if anybody's familiar with that, could let me know, and then I'll update my images to have that. And then if we could get that going, then pretty much these are going to be almost identical to the stock, because we have everything else as far as the team goes, as far as the launch images go. Just that exit is there. Like I said, we're doing a 2-button configuration instead of a hold, but we might be able to do that, like I said, if we use that Xbox DRV. But I still got to look into that. Like I said, if I'm able to figure that out, I'll let you guys know. So yeah, so that's that. And like I said, if you do set this up for like the Rampage or Final Fight, you could put it as just using all the buttons and don't put that command line thing, and then you'll be able to do the player 1, player 2 as exit, as everything will be in the one USB. You just got to go into that RetroArch, pick the twin gamepad as your device, and set up player 2 through there, on there, as opposed to the initial start config, you know. The other thing I want to talk about, I know people had issues with the on-off switch, and I also want to get into more detail on the volume switch. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Now, I don't know if it's an issue as far as how it's hooked up, or maybe the Raspberry Pi device you have, or the SD card, or maybe the power voltage, the power adapter that's being used, or you got to connect it. and it's not getting the source, because people are telling me like it shuts down on them, or it will just boot up by itself or restart on there. Now there is a more stable way to do it, but it's like I said, I wanted to do it the simple way, which is basically just connecting it on there. There's a thing called the Mausberry circuit board, basically, and it's like 18 bucks, I think. You could get that. The only thing is on that, it does require for you to solder the two wires that come in from the on-off. You have to solder that into the GPIO pins, and then by using that, it's like I said, it's a more stable way. You're not going to run into some of the issues that you're having with this, but a lot of people are not. Like I said, for me personally, I haven't had any issue with the on-off, so I don't know what it is. But what I'm going to do, though, starting from now, any image that I create, I'm going to have two separate ones. One of them is going to have the on-off switch, and the other one is not going to have it. So if you're having that issue but you still want to use my images, you'll be able to. It's not going to have the on and off switch on that second image. And or people that just want to use the image, let's say, not on the Arcade1up, because if you were to use it right now, all the images that I have posted, you have to have this connected and working, otherwise it's going to restart and you're not going to be able to, be able to use it. So I'll have the option there this way to have everybody happy to use, the device whichever way you choose. But I'm going to show you also how to program put this on. So if you want to try it out yourself, maybe maybe it'll work for you, down the road. Basically, like I said, we connect the two on-off goes to pins 5 and 6, on there. Make sure that's connected right. Like I said, maybe it's the way it's connected, I'm not sure, but make sure that's right, and make sure it's in the right pin, because the pin next to it could really screw up your Pi if you have it on there. So that it is connected to the right one. It's the third pin down on the left and third one down on the right. So if you have that connected and everything, right now I have it hooked up. It's just like I said, it's not going to operate now. You could switch this, for both the volume and the on-off. Now when we set up the on-off switch, there's two ways to do it. I'm going to show you both ways. One of them, we're going to go into our configure text. I'm going to put in a command line there, and then it'll be working. The other way is we're going to put in a whole script, and that I recommend going on like your computer or Mac, just so it's easier, because you're going to copy and paste stuff over. If you want to do it the first way, basically we're going to go here on our command line, hit F4, go sudo space nano space /boot /config.txt. Once you have that, click enter, which will get us here. We're going to scroll all the way down on here, and you got to use your control. We're going to get all the way to the bottom, and we're going to have to input this. It's dtoverlay, then the equal sign, gpio-shutdown. Alright, so there it is, dtoverlay equals gpio-shutdown. Once you have that, we got to save it. So once again, it's Cntrl X, Y for yes, and enter. It's inputted, and then now let's give this a reboot. So sudo reboot. Now the only problem with this one is this is going to be flipped around, where on is going to be off, off is going to be on. So now to fix that, you could go in there, unscrew this, and just flip it around. on here. That's one option to do, or I'm going to show you in a while. I'm going to show you a second option where we don't have to touch anything on there. We just change it in the script. So as you can see right now, it's booted up, it's on, but our switch is in the off state. And then when I switch this off, it's gonna shut it down, and it's gonna go off. Now you could test this now on yours. Maybe this script will work better for you. Maybe that might be it. And then if it does work for you, like I said, basically you just got to go in there, unscrew the screws in there, and then just flip it around on there. So then this way, this would be off instead of on. It's a quick, easy fix. It's not really a lot. I mean, we're going to do a lot more in the script and the thing on there. So either way, either you want to do the hardware, unscrewing this, less typing, or you want to do typing and nothing screwing. So see, when I put this on off, it's going to boot it back on. So there we go. So that's different. So it's up to you. If you want to flip this around, that's one way to function to make this thing activated. Simple, easy. Now I'm gonna show you the second way, and I want to shout out to Detroit Love. If you guys haven't checked this guy's YouTube page on YouTube, like I said, Detroit Love, aka Carl Brooks. This guy's got some good stuff on there. Like I said, he does coin door slots if you guys are interested, and he also shows you this coding. But I'm going to show it to you guys here as well. Now, whether you're on a computer, on a Mac, I'm going to be actually on a Mac. If you're on the computer, you could use Putty on there to do this. Me, I'm going to be on the Mac. I'm just going to use the regular terminal on here to do this. Basically, just hit the F4 button. Now you could do it here on here. It's just, like I said, it's going to be a lot of typing, and if you screw something up, miss a space or capital letter on there, it's not going to work. So it's got to be precisely the same thing, same spaces and everything. And it's much easier just to copy and paste it. So that's why I would recommend doing the computer. But you could do it this way if you want to type everything out. If not, like I said, join me on the computer. We're going to go there now, and I'll lead you, like I said, in the description part. There's going to be a link to that text file where you could just copy and paste everything on there. Alright, so we have our terminal loaded up on here. Like I said, if you're on the Putty, same thing. If you're on terminal like me, we got to log into our Pi. So it's SSH space Pi at, then you're going to put your IP address. Okay, mine is 192.168.1.4. Yours is probably different. Like I said, just you could go on your Pi, show IP to see your IP on there. Then we hit enter. It's going to ask for our password, which is Raspberry, and we're logged in. Alright, and then now we just got to copy and paste. Like I said, the text file is in the description part, and we're just going to go line by line. Alright, so I'll grab the first line on here. Now the first line, I want to point this out, is wrong on here. Okay, everything else is right. Make sure you make the change here, because he has it as sudo apt get install update, which is not going to work, especially when you get to the later on to some of these modules. It won't install. So use your keyboard here. Just get rid of install. Okay. So it should be sudo apt get update. That's it. The other ones are going to have the install, which is fine. But on here, for the update, it has to be like this. And then hit enter. It's done. Paste the next one in here. Now some of them is going to ask you here. Just answer Y for yes. Alright, So that's done. Let's bring the next one. Enter. Y for yes. Alright, it's done. Line 4. Copy, paste, enter. Like I said, it's much easier this way, so you don't have to type everything out, but if you want to do that, you can do it right on the Pi. Alright, that's done. Line 5. Y for yes. Okay, done. Alright. Now we're number 7. Paste the next one, and then now we're going to get the modules. And like I said, if you didn't install that update, these might give you problems. Alright. Alright, that's done. Look at the second one. Now we're going to need to create a directory here, so let's do that. Copy line 12. There we go. Now this one has a lot. Make sure you get everything here, from the number sign, user bin Python, all the way to time sleep down there. So make sure the whole, it's a lot on here. And this is where they make the change, so it's the on will be on the on, off will be on off. It's done right here. So the one that we're using here has the fix done, you know, whereas if you might get this text from somewhere else, that might not be done. Now we gotta save this same way we did all the other ones. Ctrl X. Ctrl X on here, Y for yes, and enter. Alright, so that's done on here, and let's do a sudo reboot on here. Alright, so after we rebooted on here, let's get the last script in there. Now this one's important. You gotta use your, arrows scroll all the way down, and make sure you put this code here before this exit. So anywhere here in between, you could hit enter. Don't put it like below it. It's got to be right here before the exit. Otherwise, it won't work. So, and make sure you get this and sign too. Everything. So as long as it's right here before the exit, it could be here or here. Don't put it after. And we save it. Ctrl X, Y for yes, enter. Alright, so everything's done on here. I'm gonna come back on the Raspberry Pi downstairs, and then we'll test this out. Make sure on and off is working properly. Alright, so we're back here. A moment of truth here. We got it on off. Everything's off right now. Switch it to the on side. And there we go. It's loading it up on here just how it should be. Like I said, we didn't have to flip anything around on there. So the code's inputted. There's your RetroPie logo. And it should boot us right back to the menu. So that's the two different options. You want to set this up on here, either through the script or through the first way, but then you got to flip this around. So that's up to you. Like I said, whichever works for you, whichever options. Let me know if the second one didn't work for you, but maybe the first one does on there. then maybe I could make some modifications to my images on there. But like I said, I will also be releasing one that does not use the switch, and that's for people that, you know, like I said, is giving them this problem, or ones that just want to use the image outside of the Arcade1up build. So on there, like I said, we're all good here, and then we want to shut down, bring it to the off, and there we go. So that's how you get the on-off switch. Next thing I'm gonna discuss, I'm gonna put this back on, is the volume switch, which is this one. We're gonna input the coding on that. I wanna give a special thanks to Robert Dorr on there for pointing this out on here, getting that to work. And this you gotta have put into your pins 12, 14, and 16 on the Raspberry Pi. So it's all the way on the right. Number 12, 14, 16. I'll put a image here for you guys to see where the pins are at. So once that's hooked up on there, again, we're gonna have to go to the command line, whether you do it from here. Now this one doesn't require as much typing as the other one. If not, I'll see you guys back at the terminal on here. You know, we're gonna have to go back here to the command line, put in some codings here to get the switch working. So when the off is off, medium, high, and now the speaker on here, I'm using the stock speaker. You could have this hooked up two different ways. You could, if you're gonna leave it as the mono there, the one speaker, you just connect it to your video board here. Here's the speaker wire. There's 4 pins there. You only got to use 2 because it's a 2-pin connector. You might need to just break off like the little plastic piece here so this fits in there, but it's not a problem. It snaps right off. So use any of the 4. I use the top 2 on here. It fits on there perfectly for me. So I have the speaker there, but you could hook this up to the amp instead. If you get an amp, you take the wires and you put it into the amp on there. If you want the 2 sounds on there, still using the stock speaker, just with an amp, and this switch will work with that. It will work with that, or it will work just the regular setup. So especially for like the Street Fighter, you may want to get the amp, or like Rampage. Like the older ones like Space Invaders, Galaga, this is fine. This will play the audio, no problem. But some of the newer games, you might want to get that amp. And like I said, the switch will work for either or. I'm going to go back on the computer now, and we're going to show you guys what you need to copy and paste over. Alright, so we're back at the terminal here for the volume switch. Same procedure on here. We're going to copy and paste everything. So open the document. Link is in the description part. Alright, first we got to get the GPIO. Copy. Everything in red that you see, you're going to copy and paste pretty much. Alright, that's the first one. Once done, install this. Now the next line, it's important to know this next one is going to merge, okay, the 2 files. And the reason why I want you to remember this next line, because if we make adjustments to our volume switch, I'm going to show you guys some additional advanced adjustments to your sounds, if it's too loud or too low, how to change the percentage. When you make those changes, you're going to need to merge this again. So the merge line, which is this on here, I'm going to click enter. But make sure you do that anytime you make any adjustments to the volume on it, okay, which I'm going to show you guys in a little while. The next line I'm going to skip, but if you wanted to test this out, you could put that in there and then hit your switch, you know, from off, medium, high, and you should see on here like the adjustments. Then when you're done, just hit Ctrl C. I'm going to skip that part. I know mine works. I've tested this numerous times. Alright, then we're going to go into the local area here. Once again, we got to scroll all the way down where we have our on-off switch here. We're going to have to put now the volume one, so it's got to be before the exit. So anywhere here, just hit enter. I'm going to copy mine right here. And you got to make sure you get everything again all the way till the and sign there. And it's before the exit here, which it is. We're going to hit Cntrl X, yes, and enter to save it. And there we go, it's saved. We got the volume switch set, saved it. I'm going to do a reboot now, and I'll meet you guys downstairs again. Alright, so we're back at the Pi here. Let's test out the volume switch on here. I'm going to load up Street Fighter again. So right now it's, the low, medium. There's the high. Back to medium. And then off. So all three work on here. Everything's working properly. So if you like the sounds on there, if you like where it's at on here. Now there's also ways on here, if you have this video board, this thing also has a volume switch on here if you want to adjust like how low, how high you want it. That works through here, unless you got a different video board. If it doesn't have it, I'm going to show you another way. Let's exit here. There's other additional configurations that you could do on here. If you go down here to File Manager, alright, we got File Manager loaded up, and then right here, the Arcade, where is it? Arcade1up volume GPIO. We're gonna go there and then click F4 is to edit. So we're gonna scroll all the way down there. Alright, so when we go into that, we're prompted with this basically on here. Okay, and right now what you could see, there's for the low, mute right here has zeros, 3 zeros on there. Then you have your high, 96 over here, and then your medium at 75. Okay, let's say you wanted to, you could change it here, like you could put this to like 80 or 85 if you think it's too high, or if you want a little bit more difference between your high and low, like you can bring this down to like 50 or 60, or you could higher this to like 80, 90, and this one put like 99. But just make sure you gotta change, the 96 here. You gotta change here 96% on here, and the volume 96. They all have to be the same. Okay, and then when you make the changes on here, you're gonna exit out of that, Cntrl X, and just make sure it's right here. It's this one, the Arcade1up volume GPIO C. That's the one that you're editing. Okay, and once you make the changes there, F10 will get you out of that screen. You got to go back to the command line. Now the line that I said with the merge, you got to hit that merge again, enter, and then do a reboot. Once you do a reboot, you start back on, it should change the volume percentage. If you want to mess around there, like I said, you could do it that way, or you could do it through the back there switch, or if you like how it is on there, like I said, or if you're using an amp, obviously you could make your adjustments with that as well. So that's how you do the volume switch. Any questions, comments, leave them below. Anything on the on-off, like I said, let me know if the first style works for you, or the second one does, or both, or neither. If neither, like I said, the other alternative option, we could do put in a Mausberry, circuit board on here, and it will be a much better stable build. And if you guys want to see that, like I said, I could order that, and I could show you guys the step-by-step procedure with that. It's really not a lot. Like I said, it's just that soldering part. I didn't want to do any type of soldering on here. I know a lot of people don't really want to do that either, or are capable of, or want to mess around with that. So that's why I wanted to do it this way. It's a much simpler, basic procedure. If it's working for you, fine. Like I said, I'll have images now when I load them up. It's going to have using the switch, and it's going to have one that doesn't have it. So both ways will be available. And what I'm going to do, you know, because I was working on the Pac-Man on there, but I had like 100 games on there with just those 2 buttons. You know, but then I'm thinking, like, you know, there's games on there people probably ain't going to play or anything. And instead of making you guys wait for all these to be releases, what I'm going to do, I'm going to release all of them. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull like 10 games on each, and then I'll just do like weekly updates on all of them. Like each week we're going to add in more on there. So this way you guys don't have to wait. So I'll be able to release everything. Asteroids, the 12-in-1, the Final Fight, you know, all these that we haven't done yet on here, instead of spending so much time on just one machine. And then in the comments, like I said, I'll take inputs on there. If there's something that you guys want to see, and I'll put it on the next weekly release, which I'll just put the images, like I'll put the folder so you guys could just drag that into your ROMs folder and everything. It'll be pretty much like updated controls and all that, the images on there for everything. So you wouldn't have to do your controls again each time. Like, I'm not just going to release a new image. You'll have the basic image on there, and then just update through the files. So that's probably what I'll do. I think, like I said, it'll be much better. Everybody will have at least their startup on there, and then we're just gonna add in bi-weekly updates. Let me know what you guys think about that, and then if so, like I said, I'm gonna do the Street Fighter and Final Fight tonight or tomorrow, and then I'll do Asteroid, Centipede, and 12-in-1 this weekend. So yeah, that does it here. Any questions? Like I said, feel free to leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, notification bell. Like I said, it means a lot to me on there. And that's it. I'll see you guys in a few, once I get the Final Fight and Street Fighter working. And anybody that knows anything about that Xbox DVR thing, like I said, let me know. I'll look into it. If we could get that working, that'd be great, because then we could have the same style for each cabinet regardless of the controls. And yeah, and then also when the images I release, I'm going to leave the controls as default, so this way you input, because I know everybody uses different controls, or you might use a different joystick, so I'll leave that out so it'll be easier. And then and this way everybody should be able to use the images, you know, regardless. So all right.